You can start.
Om Agnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chaksamnitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Reading from the book. A well-known reformer, Mahendra Pratap Raja, was forming what he called the World Federation. Abhay read a news sheet which Mr. Pratap had published from Vrindavana, in which he addressed all nations and peoples of the world and called for a unity of mankind. Abhay wrote to him suggesting that Lord Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita provided a theistic sense capable of uniting all religions. Mr. Pratap replied in May 1947, I admire your deep study of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I myself am a great admirer of the great classic. I assure you that I am working strictly according to the book. Mr. Pratap mentioned his book, Religion of Love, and suggested that Abhay read it if he wanted to know the World Federation view of religion. In the meanwhile, Mr. Pratap wrote, I do not agree to your suggestion of making the name of Krishna or Govinda as the basis of unity of religions. This would amount to conversion and won't lead to unity of religions. I highly appreciate your efforts in the direction of back to Godhead. Abhay got the book, read it, and in July 1947, he was visiting Kanpur. What a reply! He traveled to Kanpur not as a spiritual teacher, but as a pharmaceutical salesman. Yet a typewriter had been available and out had come his preaching. In continuation of my postcard, I beg to inform you that I have finished the reading of your book, Religion of Love. In my opinion, the whole thesis is based on the philosophy of pantheism and approaches made by services of mankind. Religion of love is the true religious idea, but if the approach is made through the service of mankind only, then the process is made imperfect, partial and unscientific. The true religion of love is perfectly inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita. Besides, you have not quoted any authority for all your statements. It is more or less dogmatic. If different men put different dogmatic views about religion and its essentials, which is to be accepted and who is not to be. Therefore, the approach shall be and must be authoritative, scientific, and universal. Abhay gave a summary of Bhagavad Gita in 10 points, concluding the highest service that can be rendered to mankind is therefore to preach a philosophy of religion of Bhagavad Gita for all time, all places, and all people. But excellent philosophical dialogue was not usually the result of his letters. In 1947, when Abhay wrote to high government officers of the newly formed government of India, suggesting that a remedy for riots, they turned him away. When he asked to talk with the governor of West Bengal, the governor secretary replied, His Excellency regrets that he is unable to grant you an interview at present, owing to heavy pressure of work. When he wrote to the Assistant Secretary to the Minister of Education, an assistant to the Assistant Secretary replied, the Government of India regrets that they are unable to accede to your request. Accept your request. Sometimes officials' interest took the form of patronizing pat on the head. I am sure your scheme for establishing peace will meet with response from our Prime Minister and another. He, the Minister of Education, is glad to see you are taking the route of communism. He suggests that you get in touch with. The local official asked not to be seen. I thank you for all you have written and fine sentiments which you have expressed. It is no use arguing the matter as I do not think that I can serve any useful purpose by joining the organization which you wish to set up. And therefore you need to take the trouble of seeing me. I wish you, however, all success. In October, after the Calcutta riots of 1947, Abhay wrote to the chairman of Rehabilitation Committee, who replied, regarding Harikirtan Prasadam, you may take any program of your own, but I'm afraid I'm not interested in the same, nor my committee, and therefore there is no necessity of your meeting with me. Abhay was fulfilling his Vaishnava preacher, and the secretaries of various government offices were recognizing and addressing him as such. But everyone appreciates his applications of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and his suggestions for Harikirtana. Occasionally, however, someone seems interested. Mr. N.P. Asthana, High Court Advocate, replied, I am very much obliged to you for your letter regarding your broad scheme about spiritual improvement. I thoroughly appreciate the fine feelings which have promoted you to write this letter the kindness with which you have considered my query. I have been a student of Bhagavad Gita and have also imbibed some of these teachings, but I still lack a good deal and will be glad to be guided by a person of your accomplishment. You may kindly, therefore, send your scheme to me on receipt of which I will be able to express my views. It was inevitable that Abhay would think of engaging Mahatma Gandhi in devotional service because of his lifetime of courageous, ascetic, and moral activities on behalf of his countrymen. Mahatma Gandhi had great power to influence the Indian masses, as with the Mahendra Pratap of the World Federation. Mahatma Gandhi's idea of serving God was to try to bring happiness to man through politics and through his own invented methods, as one Englishman has said of Mahatma Gandhi. He's either a saint amongst the politicians or a politician among the saints. But be that as it may, he was not as yet fully engaged in pure devotional service, and his activities were not those of a Mahatma described in Bhagavad Gita. The Gita defines a Mahatma as one who fully engages in worshipping Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead. Always chanting his glories, the Mahatma encourages others to surrender to Krishna. But because a young man, Abhay, had been a follower of Gandhi's, Abhay had a special feeling for him. Of course, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati had later convinced him to engage exclusively in devotional service. But now, Abhay felt his old friendship for Gandhi, even though Gandhi was a towering figure of worldwide fame and Abhay unknown both to Gandhi and to the world. On December 1947, Abhay wrote to Gandhi from Kanpur. Gandhi was living at the Birla mansion in Delhi, where large military forces throughout the city discouraged in the Muslim writing. Gandhi secretary Pyarelal Nair described Gandhi at this time as the saddest man one could picture. The men he had led in the struggle for Indian independence, Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel and others, had taken the leadership of the nation, and Gandhi with his doctrines of non-violence, Indian agrarianism, was now at odds with them in many ways. He feared he was becoming an anarchism. His former colleague admired him but rejected his leadership. All his programs, Hindu-Muslim unity, non-violence, upliftment for the poor, although praised throughout the world, were failures in India of 1947. On a recent visit to Muslim refugee camp, a crowd of Muslims who surrounded his car had cursed him. At a public prayer meeting, a Hindu crowd had shouted him down and ended his meeting when he had attempted to read from the Quran. At 78 years, Gandhi was physically weak and melancholic. Let me stop here, Mataji. I think what I can summarize here is the struggle that Srila Prabhupada had during his days in 1947 and how people rejected him. Despite of rejection, he still maintained his motivation and he found somebody who really started at least helping him with a High Court advocate. While Prabhupada was trying to connect with Mahatma Gandhi, his spiritual guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, has requested Abhay to start including him in devotional service. And a beautiful example has been quoted about Mahatma Gandhi, how people helped him and how people ditched him. So this is something that we also see these days in this current materialistic days also. Thank you. Let me start chanting.